match one on a very open map. And first thing I gotta say, Don, off the kicker, one side has got Mongols and French. These two civs, at least the 1v1s, were the best performing at Rebel War Lone Prairie.
Yeah, I feel like that combo makes a lot more sense. I think this is like, you know, I would compare this map to Arabia. And Arabia, I think French and Mongols are always the civs that makes the most sense. So I like this combo. And on the other side, we're gonna have the Malian HRE that we see so much of. So can they counter it is pretty much the question.
Yeah, I think to the whole Dry Arabia point, it's kind of like Dry Arabia on speed, in that you have to come out of your base quicker because of how pathetically small those wood lines are. Whereas on Dry Arabia, you can kind of park yourself in those wood lines for a very long time.
Yeah, it's a more aggressive Dry Arabia, which is not something you get to say every day. So I always love these sort of maps as well.
That's definitely. We'll have to see how Anatand and Toxa wants to play this. I've seen some HRE builds where they go for a second TC, but one thing I will say is those builds are somewhat RNG based. We'll want to look around Antox's base and see how they done for wood, because if wood is lacking in the initial neighborhood, they might struggle to go for that 2 TC type build.
Oh,
wow.
Double tower?
Double? I mean,
Okay.
one I get, but is 2 a little overkill, especially this early?
No, I think the reason is that normally you get a 4K gold mine, and he was like, oh, it's an 8K gold mine, so I have to double everything.
Is that his way of looking at this game now? It's like, okay, so every gold vein needs at least one outpost, but if it's an 8K gold vein, I'll drop a keep.
Exactly. But curious, I mean, it'll probably be good for him. Like, Malians is harder to tower rush, and like, how are you gonna tower rush someone with 2 outposts? So
Definitely. I mean,
it looks like Stage is just pulling back the field.
He's like, looks at the base like, never mind. This is.
Look at this. He's so.
Can I rush
confused,
the
like-
other plane? Oh, he's pretty far away. Nah, I guess we'll just go back to what we were doing.
Oh, I love that. That was so much fun to look at, and he went back and forth so much.
Oh, shout out to Vodka for catching that. I just like State. He's like, well, I've walked out this far. Maybe there's a way I can go, and then he gets the scan info, and then the other player's like, maybe not. Instead, we'll just end in the initial spears to be a little bit annoying for Anotand. One thing to keep in mind, Mongol Malians, pretty decent matchup for Mongols, because what do we know Malian players love to do is to drop those houses all around the gold veins, and they're very low HP. Mongols get paid, regardless of how much HP a building has, the same if they burn it.
Yeah, there's gonna be a lot to siege here. But I feel like that. Oh, the spirit might walk into TC raid. Okay,
Oops.
fine.
Where is he?
I feel like the tower doesn't get as much value, but against the Malians, but you can just siege all the buildings like you said and get all the bounties.
Definitely. That's the whole point. Sometimes you'll even see comps where, like, let's say it's English Mongols we've seen in the past, like the Mongol player will be here, the English player will be very early with men at arms. He'll start torching down mining camps and whatnot, and he'll leave them just shy of the burn radius, so then the Mongol player can come in and get the bounty. Won't see that this time around, simply because Lenok is playing as the French, which means the only thing that matters to him is getting knights.
Do you know what happens if it's already burning and then Mongols throws a torch? Do they
You
not
don't
get
get
anything?
it. Yeah, you don't get anything. I'm not sure if the interaction changes if they delete the structure. That's the only one I'm not sure of. But interesting opening coming out. Like, we didn't mention it, but of course we can see Anatand went for the economic option. I say economic, but it's proven a defensive option here. By getting that landmark down, it also functions as an outpost, so can keep the Mongols away.
Yeah, and the Mongols is kind of wondering, like, where am I gonna go? There's this HRE player with 2 towers, completely safe. And Malians is also not defended.
Yeah, and it's one of those tough ones where you're like, well, I only built 3 spears, but then you're like, yeah, but I also built a racks, and we don't have much wood. Man, actually, like, the more I think about it, it almost feels like a situation where State maybe wishes he had his stables instead, because then he could have got, like, a second scout, gets more sheep, and then doesn't have to go pastures this early, which is so painful on a map with so little wood.
What are the distance to the OVO as well, by the way? I feel like it's so far off his...
It's
off his
insanely
TC.
far away. Like, it's almost closer to Lenok's base. That's how far away it is. He did have one to the south, but I don't think he scouted it straight away. So if you look just south near the deer stack, there was a much closer.
Yeah, there's like a cliff there, so probably didn't see it.
Classic Mongol
Oh, it's
experience.
behind Woodline.
Yeah,
Never mind, it's on
Woodline,
the
yeah,
cliff.
Dude, it honestly feels like the map is working against you when it spawns a woodline like that. It's like, come on.
Yeah, that stone mine is playing hide and seek over there.
It's like, you know, on the list of most annoying civs to have to play as on stealth maps, I feel like Mongols would rank #1 for many reasons, but especially for that one. I can't find my stone.
This woodline interruption is hurting the Malian's player quite a bit. Like Lenok doesn't have to kill anything; you can just kind of posture in and out. But it's definitely getting denied.
Yeah, nothing really that Anatan can do yet. And of course, he's got an HRE teammate, which means he's not getting any assistance there. And Toxer is a greedy son of a gun, already making his way up into Castle Age. And I imagine that he's going to... Yep, it's going to be the Burgrave. Ah, man. We're back at this again. Like, you know, we kind of glazed over it because we rolled our eyes and we've seen it kind of fall flat when you do this build. Remember, we saw HRE Malian versus HRE Malian earlier, but we have returned to the slinging.
Yeah, so how are they gonna counter it? Because like French Knights feel like a counter, but I don't think they actually are. Because as soon as the heavy maces come out, like you just get outnumbered too much. So I'm assuming State wants to reach H3 here, and it will all come down to does he reach the timing or not? Because if State is on time, then he's gonna get crossbows out and those, like, you know, with the men at arms very efficiently. But if he's too slow for that, then he's just gonna get overrun.
One awkward thing that is going to occur for Antoxa here is his Burgrave Rush is going to have to be into the static comp player. And we talked about this in an earlier series where usually you want to go into the cavalry civ space because that way the other teammate can't respond as quickly. In this situation, Lenok still has freedom and is able to defend or attack.
Right, yeah. And he also didn't manage to fit a blacksmith into this build, so no ranged armor, which is pretty important. And I think I saw him tech his pikes up, so he's gonna make some pikes. But I'm not sure you're gonna do that. I feel like just going heavy maces with like 20 many arms just could be better.
I love this conversion point for State. This is a really big deal on this map. Is, you know, we usually talk about how food and wood units, the crap tier units, are too good. Well, on a map like Prairie, you can't build that too good type of unit. There's a lot of gold, though. And with that easy accessible gold that State has, the big fat stack right next to his TC, he's decided that's a good justification to invest into Magadai. Something that the Burgrave Palace actually gets counted pretty hard by.
Yeah, I do feel like once you get 2 range armor upgrades, then the Magadai, they just sort of tickle you, I believe. But since that's not ready yet, there will be enough time for State to... I think eventually his goal is to go H3 and make a crossbows, I would imagine.
Feels like they're both playing quite prolonged feudal right now. You just saw Anatan is also making his way up into Castle Age. I believe that was the Farimba garrison, so we will see aggression coming out from both the Malian and the HRE base in the coming minutes.
Yeah, and okay, so we're gonna figure out how this Magadai against Men-at-Arms looks, but I'm pretty sure as long as you get this ranged armor, that Magadai just don't do enough damage like quick enough.
I think what it comes down to is, like, are you in your base or theirs, right? If the Magadai catch you before you leave your base, I think it's going to have a big hit. But if the Magadai simply start defending once the HRE army arrives in the Mongol base, it's going to feel irrelevant.
Yeah, I'm still not sure. I'm pretty convinced that they just don't do enough damage. But we'll probably get to see it later in this game.
Why are you such a Magadai hater?
Well, we're gonna figure out soon enough if I'm correct or not.
We'll dig into this. Artie's like, man, I really miss release Magadai. You know, the only way we're gonna get back there is if we hate on them so much in the broadcast they get buffed.
Oh, if that's the case, then I think they're overpowered and.
And Delhi are too weak, right? Like Delhi need
Delhi
need herbal medicine back. Yeah. Oh god.
Yeah, come on. Like, why can't I even get Sacred Sites in H1 anymore? Get your stuff together.
So something that could be pretty underrated here, I haven't seen too many players use it well, is the idea that cycle charging can be cleaner if you use the Mongol maneuver arrow. because you can more quickly get in and out, right? So you don't get clubbed in the face once you charge in.
Cycle charging? What's that?
So like you charge in and then immediately disengage, right? And then you wait for the reset.
Yeah, like with the net, yeah.
Yeah, because like obviously the initial damage is very high, but if you go into sword, then the maces win out.
Yeah.
It's like that, but you actually use your lances.
So what's interesting here from the AOE4 Malian team is that they, most of the time when they get the burger paradise, they just completely go all in straight away. But they've been kind of just taking it slow. Malian's also hitting H3. They didn't overly commit as soon as they could. And you know, having actually a bigger mess rather than just trickling in men-at-arms one at a time, I think it's kind of working for them. But oh, look at this.
No, this is someone we didn't even like focus on, right? It's the fact that there is a Malian player. He can build javelin throwers. And as we just noticed, like Magadai, they're discussed as glass cannons. Glass cannons with almost half the range of javelin throwers. So very important that if you want to keep massing Magadai, you could not be up against the Malian at the same time. And luckily for him, he wouldn't have to be. The HRE player has chosen to dive into the French base. Worst case scenario for Lenok. Magadai not able to stand their ground and fight. Knight count is looking baby level. And Atoxa has almost 40 men-at-arms built. At least half of that is now in the base of the French. This is going to idle a lot of the economy.
Oh, and State wasn't on point there. He lost a lot of the Magadai. And you definitely need like this full group just constantly running around to do enough damage now that it's thinned out quite a bit. I don't think it's going to do enough.
I mean, he lost half of the javelins, the other half of the men-at-arms. Now the remainder is going to be taken out by the remaining javelins. That's going to bait the knights to commit, which means the men-at-arms will get their favorable clash. Remember, each one of these knights costs double that of the men-at-arms. Men-at-arms with a heavy mace upgrade are a decent damn counter to these premium cavalry units.
What's going on at the border? Yeah, that's what I was curious about. Yeah, this is like full idle on the border.
It's not just going to be full idle, it's going to be a bunch of dead villagers at this rate, which is perplexing for State. You know, Magadai, they are mostly gold, but they're also food. You will at least get the villagers away, courtesy of the yam that the outpost is giving over, though. Looks like Magadai are going to peel back, although not necessarily quick enough. A few of them could have been caught, but instead Lenok says, I actually care about you. You mildly tickle me. Instead, I want to go punish the HRE player again.
So the 8-up is coming now, but I think you should have just done this a couple minutes ago. You know, just stack up into crossbows as soon as you can.
Yeah.
But as long as they hold off this push, then they will be fine.
A little bit of an awkward State, though. For State himself, but the Magadai cannot contest. The javelin throws, you notice they are embedded inside the men-at-arms. He has to cancel the landmark. That's going to set him back, but that will not prevent the dive. These are men-at-arms with 2 ranged armor upgrade. They do not care. They've covered themselves in bubble wrap and protective shields. They're going to dive everything.
Are you on team Magadai hater yet? Are you going to join my side?
Yeah, let's get him buffed.
No, I wasn't talking about that.
That's how this worked, my friend.
Oh.
It was great being at wall lol, and every time the Malians flop, just looking at the devs and going, huh? Oh.
I really gotta learn to adapt my casting to just say the opposite of my opinion the entire time then.
Yeah, so here's the thing. Being right is overrated. Sounding like you're right is the way to go. Oh my god, this men-at-arms rush is looking so wrong, and it's just dirty how effective it's proven to be. Lenok down below 10 knights now. State still kind of puzzled as to where his castle up is going to come. He had to cancel it and move it all the way across to the western corner as far away from this as possible.
Yeah, but I think they're just kind of getting overwhelmed now, and like now, like obviously crossbows are the counter to men-at-arms, but you're kind of too late now, I believe. So, like, let's say you get like 5 crossbows out now, they're just gonna get overwhelmed.
Yeah, because if I'm not mistaken, State is going to lose those archery ranges now. There's enough men-at-arms to just torch them down.
And we kind of made, or maybe just me, made some fun of the 2 towers at the beginning, but it was actually such a good defense against the pike rush because Mongols, you saw the confusion on State, like where should he go?
Yes.
And they, you know, not getting that Dark Age damage done has kind of snowballed to this situation.
Yeah, because he went for the double outpost on each side, so there was no viable outpost for State to make at all. And something that I got to shout a lot of respect on Toxa for is the fact that he didn't feel the need to burn those archery ranges, because now, if State does build the crossbows, well, you already have the counter. Anatan just brings in more javelin throwers, and those crossbows get rinsed.
Yeah, it's just kind of too late now. It's so hard to get a significant mess at this point.
Yeah,
this is not your base, my friends.
Like, no, but can it be my base? This base looks a lot better than mine right now. There's actual buildings that aren't on fire, please.
See, you have cows over here.
Yeah, can I have some of them?
Right now.
You took my boar away. Can you at least give me a cow in response?
This is good from Leonok, by the way. Like, catching up the reinforcements, exactly how you want to use your mobility advantage. But yeah, it's probably too far gone at this point.
And now we see the issue with the crossbows. There are still javelins here. Also, in small counts, crossbows do not count men at arms. They really
No,
just
exactly.
Get
you want to have that significant mess where you can kind of hit and run. Oh, those two vills are like, here, want to see some more? Instead of just sacrificing themselves, they were like, well, I will show you the promised land. And now they're going to bring them the gold.
Like, bro, what are you doing? Don't bring them here. Oh, okay, it's just a small patrol. It's fine, right? As long as we kill them, they don't tell the main force about this, right? No, that's not how RTSs work. And Toxin now knows everything.
They did walk into Orange Base asking to join their sides, and maybe this was their way of showing, see, we really wanted to join your side.
So they are clear defectors, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
It's like secret wall lol.
Oh, well, that doesn't seem right.
Oh no. State is... Honestly, the fact they haven't called GG is impressive in itself, at least at this stage. I mean, he's even stopped trying to build crossbows. He's just building more Magadai.
I do want to point out, because, like, so we're seeing this H3 Malians a lot, and people start to think, like, oh, maybe it's broken, maybe it's overpowered, and I'm still not convinced. I just think that in this game we have the incorrect counter. And I feel like, as Mongols, if he just fast aids and make crossbows instead of making the Mangadai to tickle them, I think he would have been fine.
Yeah, I think the other thing that is interesting is, like, the HRE, I think the Burgrave time can be very potent. And then on top of that, like, Malians haven't really been figured out. Like, they have very unique and different functioning units. And if you have this kind of idea of how you counter X and Y, but you haven't been up against Malians enough, like less permutations played, it can catch you off guard, right? And it's essentially, it just becomes a complementary element to this strong HRE timing. I think that's why it looks so good right now.
Well, it's quite often with aggressive strategies. Like, let's say French Knights, for example. So let's say you start your RTS career with AOE4, you play your first game against French. Well, you're gonna die to Knights because it's just like so overwhelming, aggressive. Like, the first Knights are gonna show up, you're not gonna be ready, and you're gonna lose. And then eventually you get better at the game. You're like, oh, I could make pikes and I could defend myself, and you figure things out. And it's the same with these sort of strategies. Like, the new strategies come out, and it just takes some time to know the exact way to counter it, but eventually you get there and you'll be fine.
Yeah, they're finally going to call GG. I mean, when you go into a fight with units that cost more than all your opponents, and you're not getting a 2-for-1 in trade, it's not good enough. So map 1 will go the way of Pirozhki. Kimchi jjigae enjoys back to the drawing board. This is not going to cut it. They need to come out swinging. They need to find a way of doing it well. And remember, we are now heading into Oasis for a 3v3.